Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Talkin Kop. This is it was going to be a Tuesday night chat, but this is turned into a kind of a transfer thing. After some of the stuff that's happened today, I'm delighted to be joined by Phil. I'm delighted to be joined by Seany. And listen, let's get straight into it, right? Because Newcastle fans have been having a lovely time telling everyone how Alexander Isak is this, that, and the other. He's not. I wouldn't say he's being flawless in this whole process, but Alexander Isak, right in the middle of the PFA Awards, decided, listen, I think I have something to say now. So let me read this out and we go from there. He says, I'm proud to be recognised by my fellow professionals with a place in the PFA Premier League team of the season for 24-25. First and foremost, I would like to thank my teammates and everyone at Newcastle United who've supported me along the way. He's easing people in here, lads. He's easing people in. I'm not at the ceremony tonight. With everything that's going on, I didn't feel right to be there. I've kept quiet for a long time while others have spoken. That silence has allowed people to push their own version of events, even though they know it doesn't reflect what has really said and agreed behind closed doors. The reality is that promises were made and the club has known my position for a long time. To now act as if these issues were only emerging is misleading. When promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue. That's where things are for me right now, and why change is in the best interests of everyone, not just myself. Alexander Isak. Kiss, kiss, kiss. Seany, I'll come to you first. I seen you tweeting earlier about, like this is dragging on, like you're nearly getting sick to the back teeth of it. And it's been all about Liverpool have bid. It was derogatory. It's not at their value. He's not for sale. We've seen all the bullshit and all the fucking mental gymnastics that Newcastle and in particular Eddie Howe's tried to do. God love him, but everyone is being like, Isak's done this, Isak's done that, Isak's whatever. And listen, as I said, I wouldn't say he's blameless in the whole situation, but that from Alexander Isak tonight tells you that would nearly confirm reports of 2 weeks ago that he had told them well in advance of this season ending that his position was he wanted to move on from Newcastle and find a new challenge, etc., etc. And he's thrown an absolute grenade on things tonight.
Yeah, look, it's getting ugly now, isn't it? It's stupid that it's gotten to this position, but you have to think that Isak probably sitting in a lodge somewhere. I don't even know where he is because he sold his house in Newcastle, didn't he? So I don't even know where he's staying.
Chiesa's gaff.
There you go. He's probably in the Adelphi on the top floor, watching Bladen,
Wouldn't wish
watching
it on anyone.
Rooney, watching Rooney and Shearer talking shy about him and everyone else talking shy about him on all platforms. And it's plain to see now that he's just kind of had enough and is like, okay, but you need to know that I was given the word by the club, but more or less I was given promises were made to me. I no longer trust the club, and the relationship can't continue. And the last bit is damning for me when he basically says it's not only in my best interest that I go; it's in everyone's best interest. I can't but help be impressed with just how terribly this is being handled by Newcastle. They've relinquished every single bit of power they've had related to this fella. He's 3 years left on his deal, and they've made it so difficult for him to say now it's untenable by how they've used the media, like Craig Hope and that. Now, like you said, I don't think Isak is blameless in this. I think he's used the likes of Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano. His agent has used them to his own betterment, but I think it's getting stupid now. We've been here, we've done this dance. We did it with Coutinho in I think it was 17-18 season.
Yeah.
We play a pre-season friendly against Bayern Munich in some part of the world, and then literally Liverpool release a statement the following day to say, look, he's not gone. Simple as that. He's not for sale at any price. Liverpool release a statement on the club website. Coutinho threw his prams out of toys out of pram for a few weeks, and we ended up integrating him back into the squad when he initially leaves in January for Barcelona, and the rest is history. Newcastle haven't done that. They've missed every chance to do that. They've told you through all of their channels that he's not for sale, this, that, and the other. He's not for sale, but nearly every single article was bookended with the price that would take to get him out there. So that
And
was
and and
suggested.
the, and, and a link to a possible replacement.
Yeah, he was for sale. So like the rhetoric has just changed time and time again, and it looks like Isak's had enough now of just smut being just thrown on his name, and he's like, "Well, do you know what? I'm not doing this anymore, and I'm coming out now." And it's probably coming from, look, listen, he's probably just as pissed off with Newcastle's inability to do business as we are, because they've actually proven to be an absolute omni shambles in this window. To be honest with you, look at what the situation with James Trafford, how they let that run. They royally fucked that one up. Alanga and Ramsey, yeah, they're good deals. Sesko, nightmare, telling everyone this is the one they want, letting them rumble on, let Manchester United know what price Leipzig are willing to deal at, go in and have him stole. Joe Pedro weren't able to get him over the line. And they've just, and the Wissa now, Wissa is doing the exact same thing for Brentford, and they just don't want to pay up because Newcastle seems to think clubs aren't under the illusion that they do have this pot of money that will be available in the next week or so, because Alexander Isak is leaving, and they don't think, no, sure, we're not paying it. We're not going to pay to us now, when everyone knows they're desperate now.
Mm.
So I think it's been an omni shambles from the Newcastle point of view. It goes way beyond that. You need to realise that there's no hierarchy there. There's no link between Howe and the PIF. There doesn't seem to be any joined up thinking. What Howe's saying in the media is not what the club have been saying to the media. It just seems like an absolute shit show. And I think Eddie Howe's the biggest loser in all of this, because you seen them on Saturday devoid of any striking options on the bench. They draw 0-0 away to Aston Villa, and they just look toothless because the fella they have that scores goals doesn't want to play for them anymore, and the lads that they want to buy don't want to come to them. It's just been it's been a nightmare, and I think Newcastle have just been massively hurt by the lack of DOF. We seen it not too long ago at Liverpool. We seen the structure get a little bit fucking hectic when Julian Ward goes and Klopp ends up bringing Schmacke in, who just does remote work from Ibiza for 6 weeks
Great
and
work,
does
by
a
the
few
way.
deals.
Fantastic work.
And he done all right, but it hurt us. It did hurt us. And the lack of hierarchy and decision makers in Newcastle now is haunting them really badly, and it's getting to a situation now where they're probably going to have to sell him to us next week, regardless of who they have or haven't gotten the door.
They're going to have to.
That's just, it's inexcusable.
They're probably going to have to sell him to us next week and pay exactly what Brentford want for Visa, because they're that far down the line that they probably have to do it. Phil, look, you know, he's played so well for Newcastle. That's why Liverpool want him. The reports did come out. Well, it starts last year when they were trying to sell him for PSR reasons, and Chelsea and 83 million or something was being linked, and it didn't happen. And then when all this started up and Liverpool bid, and Liverpool had the bid torn down, Newcastle fans were like, "Oh, that's nowhere near the value," and Liverpool fans were like, "Look, we wouldn't have bid without some sort of encouragement." And apparently Richard Hughes, Eddie Howe are quite close because they know each other from whenever. And it might have been Bournemouth days, but or before that, whatever they know him from, right? But this rumbled on, and then it was like, no, he's not for sale. And then it's like, well, when they get a replacement, but replacements are probably looking, going, I'm not going in there to be the next Alexander Isak if I want to move on. And it has been a week of Alexander Isak is this, Alexander Isak is that. And now the players had enough and said, no, hold on, I'm going to have me fucking say now, and I'm going to have it in public. And it mightn't change Newcastle's stance, but he's having a say, and that's it.
He is, Gavin. And to be honest with you, we've been down this road before, not just with Coutinho, but with Suarez as well, with Javier Mascherano. And as much as the fans like to think that there's some type of power the club can have to hold a player to his contract to play, at this point in time, there's no logic in retaining his services if you can get a bid close to what your asking price is, because it's going to be so detrimental to the dressing room. The fella's not going to play for you. You're going to have a holdout. It makes no sense. So you've got a player who you can't utilise within your squad because he doesn't want to play there. You're not going to play him. You're not making any money off it. The longer you keep them, the value goes down. And as much as I've said, it annoyed me about Suarez, it annoyed me about Coutinho. But like I also said at the time, the reality is when a player wants to leave a club, the player has all the power in the world to go. And if he just stops playing football, at some point his value drops that the club will have to cash in at some point, right? So they're at this knife edge now where I think Newcastle are basically just trying to get 2 strikers in, whether it's Wisa or whoever it is they're trying to get in the door at this point in time before they sanction the Isak move, because they're thinking to themselves, well, we can't make it look like we don't want to leave ourselves short. Just for argument's sake, say we don't want to leave ourselves short. And that's literally what they're doing. So when you bounce back to what's the rightness here, he's pushing all the buttons he possibly can and pulling all the levers he possibly can to ensure that he gets his transfer in this window. That's essentially what he's doing.
But his argument is that he didn't show up last week and say, I want to leave. He didn't let this play out for the last probably 4 or 5 weeks now, and then turn and go, no, actually, I do want to leave. And they're going, well, hold on a fucking minute. We turned down a bid. He is saying that before the season ended, he informed Newcastle of his desire to leave, and he wanted to go on a new challenge, and you can get the optimum amount for me, wherever it is. And now they're... To me, it feels a bit like Phil. He said all this and they went, okay, yeah, I will, yeah. And you know, that's basically a no. And they just went on as if we ignore him over there, this might go away.
But again, the reality probably exists somewhere in the middle here, Gav, right? It's a bit like Suarez telling everyone that Liverpool promised that he could leave to go to Arsenal. Do you remember that year where I was like, no, I was promised I could leave and that there's a buyout clause in a contract, even though there wasn't. And now they're not honouring that clause. So when I go back to it and just being on a very neutral basis when it is, because if we get him, great. If we don't, I'm not going to lose too much sleep over it. I just hope we get enough reinforcements in the areas that I think we need reinforcements in, to be totally honest with you, right? And I'll be totally honest here. Watching Ekitike play on last Friday, I was getting really excited. I was having flashbacks to Torres. That's what I was saying, right? Well, like the movement, the whole lot. So this is like a fantastic other player to have, but from my perspective, it's great. It's exciting if we get him, but it's not the be all and end all. But from the player's perspective, Newcastle fans' perspective, I understand their outrage because we've been in that situation. They're not used to this. They're not used to players, their best players, just saying, I'm off. Because the last time they were involved in the transfer saga with us, their player didn't want to leave and the club just forced them out. If you remember the Andy Carroll one, it was like, give us €1 billion. And we were like, yeah, grand. And they're like, no, you're not meant to say okay. And next minute, they had to put him on a helicopter and fly into Anfield.
They had to put a bag on his head and fuck up with the helicopter, yeah.
And he was like, I don't want to go either. I'm like, well, you have to. Because we gave them a number and they said okay.
Yeah.
So I was like, so
Kev Nolan trying to entice him out of the box room to get him to go in the car.
Come on. No, we're not going to Liverpool.
No, we're only going to shops, have to get smoked.
45 million. All right.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
What?
No, that's grand.
No, you meant to say no so we can tell everyone we rejected it.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a different thing. So I'm very removed from the outrage and the annoyance that all the Newcastle fans have. I know you sent me the thing that was there, and I just think it's like, again, I'll say it's like immaturity of a fan base that they don't understand it. And the reality of football is that this happens. So when you're at the top of the pile like we are in terms of winning leagues and challenges, and we have been for the last couple of years, you're in a very different transfer space than when you're challenging for those 6th to 3rd positions, right? And it's simple what it is. So, and that's just football. Look at the way, say, Madrid acts and Barcelona acts, because they're always in those positions where they're top of the ladder in their respective leagues. So that to me is just the difference. When you look at fan bases, you look at the way the reaction's going on, and that's why I'm looking at going, this is great if we get him. If we don't, I'm not going to lose too much sleep over, because I think we've still got a lot of quality. We haven't sold everyone out the door in terms of what's there.
I think we do have quality, but I think, Phil, I understand what you're saying. If we don't get him, you wouldn't lose too much sleep. I would lose sleep over the central attacking options we have. I think Liverpool need another striker. I think it showed in the Charity Shield when Ekitike comes off, and I think it showed on Friday night when Ekitike come off, because we don't have that presence, that guy that is he's strong, he's quick, he holds the ball, he's a threat. I think we have other players that can fall into that position if you really needed it and you were like on your last, if you had an injury crisis. But Liverpool need a central striker, and I don't believe for a second that Liverpool are sitting there going, well, it's Isak or nobody. I just don't see it. I think they know it's Isak, and it's just a case of, for me, and I said this to Seany on the show last week, this isn't about Liverpool. This is about Alexander Isak and Newcastle having a row over his exit from the football club. And they both know he's going, but they won't agree on maybe how it goes or what the fee is. So he's probably sitting there now at this stage going, lads, I've given you 5 weeks to go and sign a fucking player, and you've been linked to all sorts, and you can't get a deal over the line. I'm out. I've had enough. It's actually getting to the stage now where my name is being fucking thrown around. And like I said, he wouldn't be blameless because he'll push a move and he will have to, like you said, pull some levers to make it just go the way he wants it to go. But he's now got to the stage where he's gone, I'm getting absolutely slaughtered here. Well, you fucking waffle around the place with a load of money asking players to join. Will you treat me like this? And they don't want to come. Do you know what I mean? Like, why would you sign for Newcastle? Well, genuinely, as a striker at 23, 24 years of age, on the up, take your man off Porto, really highly rated. Don't even know his name, but everyone tells me he's really highly rated. Sammy or something is his name, right? And people are like, really highly rated. Why would he sign for Newcastle? He's looking there now going, I signed for them. I scored 50 goals in 2 seasons. Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, Bayern Munich, any one of these come in, right? Particularly in the Premier League. And they offer huge money, and I want to go. And they're going, no, until we sign a replacement. It could take us 2 years to do that, by the way. So they've absolutely fucked this in all angles, Phil.
They have, Gav, but you know what, right? If it ends up being, say it's 110 million or 120 million at the end, right? The only issue that they haven't played well is the replacement side, because they go into the last couple of weeks or couple of days the window, and it'll be like what was your man's name? Rick Perry driving around with a briefcase of sand to buy our man in the Ukraine.
No, that wasn't Rick Perry. That was
what was his name? Ian Air on his Harley.
Ian Air was in a McDonald's in Kiev and for 3 days, and then we got to the deadline and the lads were like, we're only messing, we're not even his agents.
Yeah. Ian Air on a Harley in the Ukraine, trying to sign fellas with a briefcase full of sand-dust and just going, yeah, no, definitely. And then when it came to 6 o'clock on the night of the window saying, right, that's it, lads, we're finished. We can stay here till midnight sorting out deals. No, I told you, I'm off to get some dinner, and that's it, and that's the end of it, right?
Like, we were only on the verge of fucking Vinny O'Connor standing outside Melwood and Ian Air just turning off all the lights and coming out on his bike and locking the fucking gate behind him and fucking off. While your man had dildos thrown at his head and everything. You know what I mean?
Across the head.
It's just, Seany, like, we look from a Liverpool point of view, we're looking at him and saying, look, we want the player. For obvious reasons, we want the player. Like, we know how good he is. We know, like, when you look at like a TK in this team and you think, geez, if you threw Isak in there, one or the other, that they look really good. He has the track record in the Premier League over the last couple of years. And look, it'd be very easy for us to sit here and go, just give us fucking Isak. You know what I mean? Because we want him. But I struggle. What I struggle with is here, I understand Newcastle's annoyance over this. They're losing their best player. I absolutely understand that. What I can't get over is the absolute, like, just stonewalling from Newcastle fans of anything to do with the football club in this. Do you know what I mean? Like,
they've been.
You can take stuff. You can take stuff at face value. You can take whatever you want at face value. Did he tell them in advance? Did he not tell them in advance? Is it 150 million? Is it not? And you can choose to believe whatever you want. But in the cold hard light of day, he's saying that he told them. And it's been widely reported that he told them. And it just does not bring into a new light again. As much as we laugh about Newcastle trying to sign strikers and stuff and not being able to. But it focuses even more now. Where when you have the likes of Shearer coming out and bashing Isak and stuff like that, and not saying to Shearer, would you not have a word with Newcastle and ask them, what the fuck are you doing? Because behind it all, they have to know this player's not going to play for them again. So it's the big worry not in 2 weeks' time.
This is the same Alan Shearer who blamed Kirkes for Liverpool's first goal last week despite not being on the pitch.
Yeah, him, yeah.
That's because he wasn't on the pitch, Charlie. That's why he wouldn't have been at fault if he was on the pitch.
Yeah. the mind boggles. But
He was only
again,
short of blaming John Arisa. Go on.
I just think I think it's the whole thing is being like an optics exercise by Newcastle from the start to try and make.
But even the optics of it is desperate.
Yeah, but the thing is, Gav, if you look at the discourse between the Newcastle fans on social media, which I don't really know if it's a true gauge or not, because I reckon if you sat down in a pub full of Geordies in Newcastle, they'd probably have completely different opinions to what you see on online. But based on what you see online, they're swallowing every single thing that's being put out there in the Newcastle side. And you see them getting excited when they're linked to a player for 10 minutes and this, that, and the other. And then they're trying to tone down these strikers because they're not of Isak's level. But whilst not realising that they are not of Isak's level, and that's why he wants to go. And the reason why you can't attract players of Isak's level is because you're not operating at that level. Like, I think the PIF have made a holy bollocks of the Newcastle project so far, to be honest with you. Obviously, they're hamstrung by PSR, but they haven't even done the squad building right. Like, they were sold a few duds as well. Like, Tonali comes in and what's going on? The fella, AC Milan, seeing him coming down the road that this fella's not going to be able to play football for a year in about 6 weeks. So there's no point keeping him around. They bring in Isak and friends, they pay big whack for him. But, like, they done the exact same thing last year with Anthony Gordon. Anthony Gordon down tools and wouldn't play for Everton.
Refused to train at Everton.
Yeah. So these are all the things that people are refusing to acknowledge. You know, like it's just the typical case of Newcastle good, Liverpool bad, Isak bad.
But sorry, just if you look at the Gordon incident, right? The reason Anthony Gordon refused to train at Newcastle or Everton going to Newcastle because Everton were in bits financially, right, and had to sell, and there was talk that he was going to go. He wanted to go because he wanted to get out of it. Fair enough. But the talk was the fee was going to be this and Everton needed the money. And then Everton were like, no, we want more and this, that and the other. So it's very actually similar to what's going on here. You know what I mean? Now, Newcastle aren't in bits financially. The problem is Newcastle have extremely rich owners. But it makes a blind bit of difference because you have to be a rich football club. You have to be rich in revenue. And people going, oh, PSR ruins it, we could do this. Well, you could, yeah. But then you could do whatever you want. But then if your owner decides to bring his fucking ball home, right, you're left with all these outgoings and you don't have the revenue and the fella pumping the money in and you end up going out of business. And that's what PSR is for. PSR is not for, make the biggest bigger. It's not. What it's there for is to protect your football club from overspending and leaving yourself in a situation where you will go bankrupt.
Without PSR, like I actually dread to think what would be going on at Aston Villa because their wage to the revenue number is 92%. 92%. Like, in what line of business is that sustainable? Like, it's not sustainable, and this is why. Because the thing is, like, as much as American money has heavily influenced Premier League football in recent years, like, it's still a plaything, and if these owners were to up and walk away, like, they'd leave clubs in bits in shy. Now, we can talk till the cows come home about Newcastle's riches, but there's no point having all the riches in the world if you have no idea and no structure. And I'd give it your woman Stavely and her husband, they were doing the right things, but you need to wonder why they walked away. You need to wonder why Dan Ashworth was like, okay, I'm getting out of here. When in fairness, United come in. Paul Mitchell, who's
Ashley says Villa's ratios up to 96%.
Paul Mitchell, who's done fabulous work, has done fabulous work all over Europe, was there for a few months and says, no, this is not for me, I'm out the gap. And it's because I think Saudi Arabia in their own realm when it comes to boxing, UFC and their own league have literally just been able to go, all right, well, and the golf as well. And the F1 and nearly tennis. Everything else. They've been able to just go, all right, I just can't throw loads of money at this and it'll all work out. Because that's what they've done. It's what they've done with the boxing. It's what they've done with the UFC. It's what they've done with the F1, the golf. All right, I actually don't need to know what I'm doing here. If I pay someone loads of money, who knows what they're doing, it'll just happen naturally.
PSR PSR
and that doesn't work like that in football anymore. It does not work like that in football anymore because as much money as they have, they're going into rooms with people who are just way shrewder than them. Look at Brentford. Look at Brighton. Like look at Tony Bloom at Brighton. He's a professional gambler. That's where he made his money. He's so astute. He's so clever. He knows exactly what he's doing. That he's put Brighton on a pedestal there with little or no funding. Literally just walking off good scouting and having a good structure there.
Flipping players, yeah.
And flipping players.
Yeah.
And what goes under the radar is it's as big as Liverpool have got off the pitch with Adidas and all stuff like that, and the sponsorships with the new ground and the training ground. Liverpool have basically been impeccable in terms of sales in the last 10 years and buying young academy products and flipping them and getting them out the door.
Look at our sales this summer, 227 million quid.
Yeah, and just being the smartest person in the room is always better than being the richest person in the room. And it's fucking Newcastle, like, they should have been throwing all the money in the world back at Woman Staveley to get her back in the door or whoever. And I know the stuff going on with the current lad who was running operations has fallen ill. But, like, look what happened to Eddie Howe at the back end of last year. The fellow was in hospital in poor health. And then he's just coming back in and he's, like, I think his brother-in-law or his brother or something is standing DOF. Like, it doesn't work in any line of business if you don't have a right structure in place. And this is what's killing Isak, and it's what's killing Liverpool, and it's what's killing Newcastle is some fucking bollocks in Riyadh is sitting there with his big fucking ego, afraid to be hurt, and is throwing everything out in the media. And I would not be surprised, Gav, if they just held on to him till January now out of spite, because they can afford to pay him. They can
absolutely afford to pay him, but the problem is that they were tight on PSR before they started, and they've no outgoings. Bar, I think, your man to Leeds for about 12 million quid, and they've signed Jacob Ramsey at 43 million from Villa, who needed to sell for PSR. They've signed Alanga at 55 million, right? So there's 90 million quid they spent, and they brought in 12 or something like that.
I think any DOF for a brain is like, okay, how much? I'm being hypothetical, but there's 130 mil coming in for Isak, say, right? We can do that early doors, or we can agree with Liverpool that'll be done at X time when we get our ducks in a row, and that's fine because clubs do that.
But they ignored it.
But clubs do that. And they could have said, do you know what, we could lose Isak here, but by the time we kick off away to Villa, we could be in a way better position than we were in May in terms of our squad, and we're in the Champions League, and we'll have a go at what we have, and we'll spend wisely, and we'll recruit well. But they haven't done that. I don't see the sense in any of their signings. Jacob Ramsey's a good player, but 50 million on Alanga, I don't get it. James Trafford, like, they had him on a play. They managed not to be able to do it. They end up signing fucking Aaron Ramsdale. Like, who sanctioned this? Whatever you feel about him, like, Aaron Ramsdale has been relegated to every club he's been at.
Yeah, but the reason they couldn't sanction these,
I think they've overplayed their hand when they should have had all the power in the world in terms of having a fella who's 3 years left on his deal, worth loads of money.
They should have went out and signed Visa. They should have went out and signed Visa and Sesko, and said bang bang in the door, and Isak goes right in the same week. Boom boom in, right, and the players know what's going on, and in and out you go. Like, and the reason they couldn't get those James Trafford and Joe Pedro and all done is because when it came down to paying wages, they couldn't do it because they were trying to negotiate constantly against PSR and against the fact that they just pig ignorant and ignoring the big Isak thing over here in the corner. And people going on about PSR going, well, if PSR wasn't there, we could do whatever we wanted. Well, that's not true, because there's also rules around what your owners can put into a football club, one-off payments. Then you're looked at for sponsorship and proper market value, etc. PSR is about your profit and sustainability, right? That's what it's about. And it's all about your wages to your revenue and making sure that you're not overpaying. And your owners can put a few quid in, and you can probably get some sponsors. Why aren't they getting the sponsors anyway? There's nothing to stop them getting the sponsors. Go out and get 20 sponsors from Saudi Arabia at 10 million
Imaginary
each.
ones.
Not even imaginary ones. Not even imaginary ones.
Imaginary ones.
But even if you went away from
20 billion.
But even if you went away from the city route, they could easily go into Saudi Arabia tomorrow and go, right, but they could. They could go in there and go, listen, we can't do a $500 million fucking deal here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 5 deals at 50 million, and it's going to be their fair market value on whatever it might be. We're going to rename all the fucking stands in the ground, and they can get their money in. But they're not. They're not, because they know that you can put all that money in, but they can't sustain it against our revenue. It's as simple as that. It's the revenue that you bring in. Forget all this fucking, one-off sponsorship deals. It's the revenue the football club brings in, and that's what they're up against. So this PSR shit is nonsense. It's a fucking nonsense that they're talking, because they wouldn't be able to do whatever they wanted. They also voted for PSR because they didn't like what...
The perfect example
but they didn't like what Chelsea done, and they didn't like what City done.
Sports that will have mega rich owners, but Daniel Levy has turned the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium into a money printing machine, and they're actually cash rich now, where they can do loads of business in a window and not have to worry about anything like that.
Yeah, but Tottenham are a much bigger club than Newcastle anyway.
But they shouldn't be.
But they are.
You know what I mean?
Are.
They
command more people around the world. That's what it's down to. There's no club out there that commands so much support all around the world and are sitting in 10th in financial standings within the league. They just aren't. If you command more around the world, you make more revenue for the football club, and it doesn't have to be through these deals and sponsorships and everything else. Phil, I want to talk about something here, because I seen some clips yesterday of a Newcastle fan, True Geordie. I don't know the fella's real name, and
that's his government name.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Phil. I don't usually comment on people that do other podcasts or shows or fucking, because I couldn't really give a bollocks about them. But a couple of things. Called Isak every name under the sun, which I'm absolutely fine with. He wished, he said, look, if he gets a career-ending injury, sure, I couldn't give a fuck. Right? Maybe that's just emotion. And then he had tried to compare, and wait for it. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but he tried to compare Alexander Isak abandoning his teammates and leaving them there, how dare he, right, to Diogo Jota passing away and leaving his teammates behind. Now, Phil, I'm all for, we say it all the time, we're loyal to this player, and, we're loyal to, it's all about our team, and we want the best for our team. But Jesus Christ, if we're going down this route, Phil, like, there's normal conversations over things, and you can get a bit emotional and you can get a bit riled up, but come on, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? Like, trying to compare Alexander Isak leaving a football club for £110 million plus and not being with his teammates to a guy who's passed away, and trying to compare how Liverpool players will feel to how the Newcastle players will feel, is off the fucking charts for me.
I hear you. I don't have the same outrage, and the reason why I don't is because he's an imaginary person on the internet, right? And I'll be honest with you, Gav, 95% of the stuff that you see online now is put out there. If you were saying he was obviously slagging off a fella, right, because he didn't like what was going on, he's upset about he feels whatever it is, but then he ratchets that up to 100 so he can put it out on the internet. And then when he puts it out on the internet, then he has to make an outrageous comparison, which is going to draw more people in and talk about the stuff it is. And what does that do? You go to see what he did and see what their comments are, and he gets the benefit of people going and looking at it because it's the clicks and the click-through and all that type of stuff. And there's loads of fellas that are at this and have been. This seems to be the way of the world in terms of what people like to watch these days. It's car crash TV. It's that Black Mirror episode where, do you remember where your man has to do stuff online, and the more outrageous it is, the more money you got to keep the things going. And that's what this is. This is just this is tokenized outrage that exists at this point in time. It's not even about emotion. It's all fabricated.
I fully agree with you, Phil. Right? I fully agree with you, and it is for. So let me put it to you a different way. I agree with you. People are out there and they'll say the most random fucking weird stuff, and they'll shout and scream, and to get interaction, and it's content and it's traction and it's money. I get all that, But in what sort of mind frame do you have to be? mindset do you have to be to turn around and go, I'm going to compare that and that?
Like, I'm the wrong person to ask, because again, I just see it as I see it as a means to attract attention. I don't see it as a genuine, like, if you were to sit down with this fella on a away from all this type of stuff, right, and have a proper conversation, he's not going to have it. And I'll be honest with you, back when we were setting this up back years ago, I'd say all sorts of mad stuff to get a reaction and to get people engaged on Twitter and stuff like that. That's there. So I know it is. Never went that far. Did get blocked by Lucas because he didn't like the fact that I slagged him off in the show an awful lot, right? But like, apart from that, it is, and I don't like it. It's why I've sort of disengaged with an awful lot of that fan type media, the stuff that I like, and I like to engage with it, and I like to get involved, because I see the contributors as being balanced and emotional within reason. And this outrage stuff, this, face to camera where it's just one person shouting down a lens at you for whatever it is, I don't get it. I don't get the attraction. I don't understand it. And again, I'm an old man shouting at clouds, so there's no point in me telling people what to do. People consume it the way they want. And all for it, but like, I won't be going clicking on a link to see this fella come up with this type of stuff, because from what you sent me and the screenshot that's there, if you just even look at the screenshot of what the link is, it's a fella losing the plot at the screen, and it's like, that tells you everything you need to know from my point of view. So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's this shock rage bait kind of.
And look, in fairness, a lot of people have.
But like, this is a fella who asked the board in a DM to stick a dildo up his arse and show it on him. Like, this is what I'm dealing with.
Okay.
This is literally what he was at.
Taking a turn.
No, it's not taking a turn. He's just weird. And he's a massive Islamophobe as well.
Right, okay.
He's been cancelled for stuff like this before. And like Phil said, like, if you can't go by your own real name on the internet, then you need to ask yourself why. Like, why is he the true Geordie? Why does nobody know what his name is? Anyone who's ever walked with him, who had any sort of credibility about him, walked away from him. Let's be honest. If you look into this fella's past, that's what he is now. He is shock jock media, do whatever he can to stay relevant. Will literally say or do whatever. Like,
that's where I am. That's where I am. I think you have to draw a line. I think you have to draw a line with the death of someone. And a lot of people in the chat did ask, are you going to talk about him?
Gav,
and I wouldn't usually.
These fellas don't have any
moral compass.
They've no rationale. They've no, like, what can you do when the shite that was leaked on the internet about him? They've no dignity. So say whatever you want that gets clicks. Simple as. And the sad point of it is that that's actually what works now, and it's the sort of content that people like consuming now. I don't really. Like, when you kind of look across fan bases and you can tell a lot about a fan base based on who's their representative in the media. Like, so you look at Arsenal fan, you have Arsenal fan TV, now they're just a load of mentalers. Now, they're harmless, but they're just mad. Like, you know what I mean? You have your man who has the beaker, the headphones, the monkey hat, 12 months a year, and the lunchbox and everything, and he's in his 50s, and that's fine. He's harmless, all right? That's grand. They do what they have to do. You have United, who have your man Goldbridge, who's secretly a Nottingham Forest fan. Like, he's not even a United fan, but he realised there was a niche in the market that I can make a load of money talking about Manchester United because they're fucking huge. Then you have Liverpool, and I would consider the likes of Thor the ones that Sky talk about when they want to know anything about Liverpool, and you don't get any of that shit there. It's just it's good coverage on the team with balanced talk. It's not leaning too much one way or not leaning too much the other. And then you have this big fucking sausage, True Geordie, who is the focal point in the media for Newcastle fans. So what do you expect? And you look at this fucking easy, and you only have to go onto his channel and scroll down 5 or 6 videos, and you'll see what he's all about.
I don't watch the stuff. I just seen a clip today, and I don't really care who he is.
He commentates. He's a social commentator on current world affairs, whether it's someone like fucking Tommy Fury and his board from Love Island, Conor McGregor, fucking or Andrew Tate or any of these muppets that people seem to idolise these days, because he knows what gets people clicking. And he's being clipped up and sent all over the internet now, and he looks like a fucking idiot, because that's what he is. He's a big fucking idiot, despite all the shit that went on in his past. So that's just the sad world that we live in now, that rage bait. It's the same with all of these accounts on Twitter that you just know blue ticks and they're going to get paid. So I'm just going to throw the most outrageous shit up on the internet and get as many people as I can to buy and get annoyed over it.
I think you're better off, Gav. Honestly, I think you're better off ignoring these type of fellas, right? Because
I 99.9% would, but I draw the line at somebody trying to compare a guy transferring from one club to another to a guy that's died. I draw the line at that. And listen, I think it'd actually be remiss of me to come on here and go, yeah, no, this is all going on, and this fella's going on like this, and someone doesn't respond. Now, I'm not saying I'm the only one to respond to him, and maybe I'm too emotional over it, but my thing on it is that, listen, if he was going on and going, well, what if Salah wanted to leave, and I'd be going, yeah, whatever. But when you're genuinely making a comparison between a guy transferring and a guy dying, I draw a line, right? And maybe that's my own fault for doing that, and maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I just, when I seen that today, I went, no, hold on a fucking minute.
I can understand, but sometimes it's better to take a step back and go, don't engage.
I should have just had a smoke, shouldn't I?
Should have had a smoke, right? Maybe had taken the driver out,
right?
Just had a few swings of it,
right.
Feel great about life again.
Yeah,
drinking the outside when it's not too hot, not too sunny. It's just going back to that greyness, that Irish greyness. That means that you're never too mad and never too soft. So it's all good.
So
there's a lovely softness to the day.
We get away from the Isak stuff and we get on to the Federico Chiesa song, which if you
now wait till you get me on this one.
Oh Jesus! But right. So my thing on this is that I don't. This song is, first of all, it's been sung about a year. Right, It's been sung continuously when Liverpool won the league against Tottenham. It was sung continuously when they picked up the trophy on against Palace. It was sung continuously in the city centre of Liverpool by thousands and thousands and thousands of people, where it was covered as one of the biggest parades you've seen the day following Liverpool lifting that trophy. And all of a sudden, he scores a goal, and people have a problem with this song. Right now, I'll try to be as balanced as I can on this. Tony Evans is the one that has the problem with it. Tony Evans has been a Heysel, he's been a Hillsborough, he's seen tragedy at Liverpool, so he can, and Juventus hold a place for him that probably doesn't hold for an awful lot of people, especially in today's. I wouldn't consider myself today's generation because they're a lot younger than me. But I don't know, like, where do we draw the line here? Where, like, can we not fucking sing a song about anything to do with anyone anymore without it being linked to something when it clearly isn't? Because honestly, it's been sung for a year and all of a sudden there's a problem because the guy scores a goal. If we'd have sang this for 2 years and this guy stayed for 2 years and didn't score a goal, would the song be okay? Right? And I'm going to throw it at you, and I'm going to put it out there. The first line of the song is, you can hear them crying in Turin. Right? Now, first of all, no one was crying in Turin. It's a song. They've made it up to go along with some lyrics. Juventus weren't offering Federico Chiesa a new contract and wanted money for Federico Chiesa, and Liverpool paid. So the first line of the song is not actually true, but it doesn't need to be, because it's a fucking song about a footballer, right? And it goes on, and and then the end, fuck off Juve, I'm a copite now. And people are like, could we not change that to, cheerio or something like that? And I'm like, fuck off. Do you know what I mean? We can't keep linking stuff to this or linking stuff to that. It's a football song about a player that came from Italy, and it's a banger, right? That's where I am on it. And my biggest thing on it is, it's been sung for a fucking year, right?
My question is, where's the furore for the actual tragedy chants that Liverpool are subject to more time than other in and out of the season? Where's all this discourse around that? This has been going on. That song has been sang for the best part of a year.
Everywhere. Like Mr. Wick says Heysel can't be mentioned, 39 lives lost. But hold on. Heysel isn't being mentioned at all. No. He just happens to have signed from Juventus. Do you know what I mean? He just happens to have been signed from Juventus. And that's it. And it's not
I think it's a storm in a teacup.
I think it's absolute madness. Phil, go on, let you go first, and then we left Shawnee finish off with this because I want to talk about a big Italian fella that we signed.
Let's Shawnee finish there, and then I'll give you my take on it.
Go on, Shawnee.
I just, it's like one of these. It was like a fucking eureka moment because someone said, "Oh, Heysel happened," and then everyone was like, "All right, so should we not say like fuck off Juve? I'm a cop right now." There's no correlation between the tragedy and the singing. A fictitious song made up by fans as a celebration of a player. Like, we were singing this for the fella when he wasn't even playing games. It just happened to be catchy and it caught on. Like, where do you draw the line? Like, you know, I don't. For me, it's just, it's one of these things where people have just literally had to be told, okay, we should be offended by this, and all of a sudden we're offended by it. And I think it's a lot of nonsense, to be honest with you. I genuinely do. And I'm not being insensitive to the tragedy because there's fucking no place in football to be belittling things like that. But
if that song had any link to Juventus and Heysel, it wouldn't have seen the light of fucking day. Right?
No.
Because it wouldn't have even been made up. Right? Because now you're thinking of Liverpool fans in the wrong way. Liverpool fans wouldn't set out to make up a song.
Tony Evans is mad.
But Tony Evans, you might consider him mad. Tony Evans, you know, I don't know if I'd say I have time for Tony. I understand a bit about Tony Evans.
Well, God, why didn't he say this last year?
But this is my whole point. If that song came out on Friday night and was belting around the four sides of Anfield, and two sides of it weren't singing, they were like, "Oh fuck, where did that song come from? That's a bit bleeding mad." And he was making this argument today. I go, "Yeah, but you know what? It's only come out. Let's have a fucking think about it." But like, Phil, it's going a year. It's not like it's a secret.
Listen, so I don't have an issue with the song, right? That's the cards on the table here. I don't have much issue with most songs, to be totally honest with you. And I've said to you on this before, I struggle with trying to rein in tribalism when it comes to fans, because the beauty of football and the noise and the spectacle is that tribalism. It's driven, and you know, there is this piece. If you go to anywhere in the world, the tifos, the chants, the songs, they're defiantly antagonistic at no matter what's happened, right? Once you move X distance away from whatever's happened, because it's designed to annoy the other fan group. It's designed to gauge a reaction. It's designed to lull them into some form of response. So the difficulty I have with this whole thing is that we've spent a lot of time saying, or as a fan base saying, we don't like the way people chant at us sometimes. Okay? And I understand the sentiment that Tony Evans is broaching in his article and where it's come from. And I understand the sentiment that's in Simon Hughes' article in The Athletic as well, that goes into it. The tricky part here is just that we signed Chiesa off the back of Juventus. If Chiesa was signed from Inter and those words were Milan and Inter, I think somebody mentioned in the chat as well, there'd be no talk about this. It's just the fact it's Juventus and the history that exists. If you take away that history, the song is meaningless when it comes to outside of we signed this fella from a city and we signed him from a club in terms of what that is, right? But sometimes if you are upset about the way fans are singing and chanting, and we're saying there is a level of acceptability, you sometimes do have to raise yourself, Gav, to a much, much higher standard and much more guardrails that's around it. But overall, as I've said to you, I don't agree with that sentiment. And people aren't going to like this, but I can understand why people are upset by the chants and stuff that goes on. But I've always been accepting of it because of the way football is and the way football tribalism exists and the way things have always been throughout decades. We're not talking about 5, 10, 15 years. This is decades of it. And the games and the spectacles I like to watch around the world, not just in England, it's designed. Think of the old firm games. Think of when Ireland play England. Think about all the stuff that goes on. Half the songs that we sing at the match are in defiance at the 800 years of oppression we faced under the English. People don't understand why we can't cheer on the English team, because we've been brought up on the back of a war of independence that happened less than 100 years ago. So it's taught to us in school. It's there. It's in everything we do. One of the biggest viral moments over the last couple of years is Steve Coogan singing "Come Out You Black and Tans" on the BBC, of all places. And even though it's a comedy show, and again, the uncomfortable, the discomfort the producers and editors had when that was happening, and whether they should broadcast it or not, because they were scared of the reaction that was there. So I go back to it. This is tribalism. This is football. I understand the sentiment. I get where it's coming from, and I get the standards we have to hold ourselves to. And if we don't, then you do leave yourself open to some type of comeback. What's interesting is that it's come out of Liverpool journalists as opposed to somewhere else. Okay, so it's not like the equation, say, coming from a Daniel Harris or from a Henry Winter, or who've made that equation to it, right? And it's come from someone who's been a very strong voice on both the Hillsborough and the Heysel tragedies that have gone on. And look, I've talked to Tony Evans through the podcast on a good few occasions, and he's been a top fella. He was a great fella when we were starting this thing off in terms of linking us up with people and stuff like this. He has got strong opinions, but he also knows, and I'll go back to what we talked about in the last segment, right? He also knows how to write an article and how to get the attention the article it needs. Because ultimately, if you're a journalist, you're there to sell words. How do you get words? You put up an opinion that isn't necessarily run-of-the-mill, and it generates interest. And this has generated some amount of interest within the Liverpool fan base that's guaranteed what's going on.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. I don't disagree with any of that. What I would say on it though, and I go back to it, right? He could have wrote that article a year ago.
Well,
Simon Hughes could have wrote that article a year ago, and listen, they'd get much more, I suppose, attention, maybe not attention, but much more of a leveled reply, I think, if they'd wrote it a year ago. So and basically it was like, oh, the timing is perfect for this now. He scored a goal, he puts them 3-2 up, opening day of the season, emotional night, blah, 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 blah. But now we'll put it out there. So if it's an opportunistic thing, right? If it's actually an opportunistic thing from journalists, right, on this, why can't we question them as to what they're saying? Why can't we question them as to what their true meaning is on this? Because what they're doing is they are presuming that this is a true meaning, or this is a meaning. There's some hidden meaning behind what Liverpool are singing. Well, there must be something hidden behind what you're doing, because you could have done it a year ago. You could have stamped this out a year ago when this song first came out and people were singing away and people going, listen, lads, I think that's out of order. And people would have went, oh, yeah, maybe so. But a year later, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It'd be like me throwing eggs at your window every fucking day for a year and you going, I don't like being eggs being thrown at my window. Well, why didn't you tell me a year ago? Do you know what I mean? Why didn't you tell me a year ago? And this is the problem. This is the problem. It's gone on and it's gone on and it's gone on. And you know what? You've hit it on the nail on the head now. Because what they've done is they've went, we'll wait till the big moment for Chiesa and we'll stand on a high horse here and we'll fucking talk down to everyone about how this is right and how this is wrong. But we'll do it for their benefit. So it's not for Juventus' benefit or Juventus fans' benefit. But by the way, I haven't heard in the last year, I've not read a single thing from any Juventus representative to say that's a bit out of order, that fucking song. Right? Because the first line of the song makes out like Liverpool went and swooped in for Chiesa, and Juventus were like, oh, what are you doing to your awful, terrible Liverpool, but bold Liverpool for taking him. They didn't want them. They didn't want to offer him a contract. They wanted the money, and Liverpool gave it. And Liverpool, the song actually makes out like Liverpool went, one chat with Arne Slot and he said shout, right? As if, but it's a completely false song when you actually think about it. But that's what songs are meant to be. They're meant to be creative. Right, so now we're at the point where journalists are making this out to be a big deal, but they've sat on it until they could make the most out of it. But they're meant to take the moral high ground on this. That's funny. It's interesting. Anyway, Italians. We're not getting away from the Italians because Liverpool, Shawnee, have signed Leone from Parma for a load of money. He's 6'5". He's built like a brick shit house. He's much bigger than I thought he was. Are you looking forward to seeing him play? He looks a fucking unit.
Yeah, you know my thoughts
Yeah,
on
I know you do.
Italians.
Yeah,
They don't travel well.
yeah.
But now,
Would you
to be
like me to
honest with you,
quote you again?
yeah, I'm going to be honest. Like, I probably this time last week, I didn't know he existed.
Yeah.
He wasn't he wasn't one that I knew about. But looking into him and doing a bit of reading up on him, he looks like a serious talent, and it's. I was convinced the club are going to buy him and leave him there for a year in Parma, and then possibly bring him in then, or maybe buy him and maybe lend him to a Premier League club. But it looks like shrewd business. It looks like Liverpool have just done the whole idea of who are Bournemouth going to sign to replace Dean Huyson. All right, this young fella in Italy. Okay, so why don't we just buy him now as opposed to paying 67 million for him in the next 2 or 3 years, and we just bring him in. So it looks like they just cut out the middleman, and it looks like good scout. Now it's big money for an 18-year-old, but I'm interested to see how much football he plays between now and the end of the season. So yeah, it's exciting. I think we need another one. I think we're going to need another centre half. I think we'd all agree on that. It'll probably be Gahey by the looks of it. But yeah, I'd much rather have him in the door and be available than not. It looks like we just sold Kwanzaa and brought in a fella that we think is going to be better than Kwanzaa was in the next 2 or 3 years for a little bit less price. And I imagine that his wages isn't mental either. Coming from Italy, but yeah, it's good now that kind of, well, I don't know whether it's good, but it looks like Italian clubs are being priced out of keeping top Italian players in the country now because just the disparity between the money available in England compared to elsewhere. So it looks like we skipped the queue for this young fella. Like you said, he's fucking massive. I seen him in the Inside Anfield video, and he's towering over Ali, and I think he's even taller than Van Dijk, which doesn't correlate really to anything because I've seen loads of centre halves who are only little fellas and are deadly as well.
Maldini says he's deadly, apparently.
Yeah, well, he has to say that, doesn't he? But now he looks the business from what I've seen of him. Whether it translates now into it's there's a big difference between playing for Parma and playing for Liverpool, especially a Liverpool team that are expected to challenge on all fronts. So let's see how it goes. I'm genuinely interested to see how he looks playing big boy football in England, and I wonder how soon it is that we do actually see him feature.
I wonder do we do something like, remember the fellow we signed off QPR, the centre back, for on loan? Do you remember Klopp's first one o'clock?
Calker.
Yeah.
Stephen Calker.
Could we do a Calker on him? Could we just, we were 2-1 down in the game, could we just throw him up front? Could we just spend 6 months playing him up front off the bench? I think that everyone's heads will be falling off. It'd be amazing. But it's interesting, Johnny, you mentioned centre halves and stuff. David Wright says there, guys, what do you think of the news? Craig Hope is saying that Isak is going nowhere. That's a quick response from Newcastle. Newcastle statement expected, apparently, says David. Yeah, look, if Newcastle are going to get a statement there on the back of Isak's comments, fair play to them. But Isak's not having any more of that mess, and I don't think he's having any more of it. He's basically, drawing a line in the sand, pitched his flag like Souness did that time at Galatasaray, and he's gone, and he's going for it. Just before we go quickly, we've spoken about Isak, we've spoken about centre backs, and we need another one. Phil, window closes in 2 weeks. Just less than 2 weeks. Isak, Guehi, thoughts? Did he happen?
Well, you think you're going to need a fistful of dollars to get those lads in the door? Let's be honest about it, right? Because you're not doing anything for anything less than 160 million across the course. I remember once upon a time back in Liverpool land, you wouldn't have ever thought that we'd be shopping in this type of well for any type of player that's going on. Like, we've been spending the Coutinho money now for 6 years, which is impressive. Like, do you know what I mean? So it's fantastic. Yeah. Maybe for a few dollars more, we'll definitely get Isak across the line, and then if we get Isak, Leone, and Guehi over the line, that's the good, the bad, and the ugly all coming in the door before the end of it, right? And you never asked me about Leone. signing Sergio Leone's grandson, that's like really impressive for me. That's the most impressive thing we've done in a long time. And I hope it change. I hope now we can play the music in the stadium. So that's fantastic. Yeah.
Phil's definitely not even seeing this player yet. He's like, who the fuck is he talking about?
I heard you said to me we saw a fella called Leone. He was massive, and I was like, deadly.
Yeah,
and there
that's
go.
it. That's all.
And all I heard Sergio.
If he shows up on me telly, fair enough.
Where Clint Eastwood rocking around the stadium in a poncho.
Jerry says Phil hits the spaghetti western trilogy. But Phil, Isak, Guehi are the two names. Yes on both of them, no on both of them. Yes and a no.
From what? Listen, I've been banging this drum, and I think only twice in my life has it ever been hit over the course of the summertime. I still think we're missing something in the centre midfield, and when I'm talking about cover for Gravenberg, right? And I think it's great signing Isak. I think Guehi brilliant. Get him in. Get Sergio in, that's great. But I'd love to have gotten a defensive midfielder in, because I just think when you look at that game last Friday, right, and you look at how open we were in the transition when he adjusted what went on. I know there's all the question marks. Why they put Endo out and right back? Blah 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 blah.
But you see, we are so open in the transition because our defensive midfielder was ahead of the ball. It wasn't the fact that we didn't have a defensive midfielder. If Endo's standing in, not Endo, wasn't Endo at the time. But if our defensive midfielder is standing where he's meant to stand instead of being in the box, there wouldn't have been a problem in transition. It's not transition. It's their attitude towards trying to score goals.
It's not, because it doesn't happen when certain players are there, right? And natural top level fellas rarely get caught in those positions as there. And whatever about once doesn't happen twice. So it's like
yeah, I hear you, but at the same time, you know, it's not like we didn't have a defensive midfielder on the pitch.
No, I get you, but I'm saying he's not good enough. So does this my element, Gav? It's like it's you need more than, you've got 100 million attacking midfielders who are deadly at this moment in time, right? You've got some good midfielders, and I mean you've got some absolute world class, excellent midfielders, right? But you've really only got one fella who is an out and out defensive minded midfielder, and when we signed him we wouldn't have put him in that category, but the way we play, he fits that box perfectly, right? And you just wonder if he loses any game time whatsoever for an elongated period across the course of the season, you're going to have to change the shape or the way we play to accommodate that loss. And if we're spending all these money on these players, we needed the centre backs. I'm still after. I know what you said about Ekitike and all that type of stuff, but I think with the attackers and the forwards we have, you can cut element of the field a lot more than the one at the back, and that's my only concern. That's my only one big concern that's going into it. And if we sign Isak, listen, I'll be delighted, and I'll be saying, right, maybe next year we'll sign Mascherano again, and I'll be happy.
Do you think they do Isak and Guehi though? That was my question, Phil.
I think they do Guehi anyway.
Okay. Guehi.
I think the Isak thing is so far out of their control that if they decide, if Newcastle decide to just show where this is, you don't do this to us, end the story, we're not going to transfer you, deal with it. And if you want to go and rot and go and train on your own in Sociedad, we don't really care, because you're not going. And do you know what we'll do? We'll sit there.
It's going to take a statement from Newcastle that should have came at the very start if he wasn't for sale. He's not for sale under any circumstances. Good luck. It's going to take that now.
I expect that to happen fairly soon now.
Yeah, it might do. And it's probably going to take that. But if that's the case, Liverpool need to go and sign another striker without a shadow of a doubt. Shawnee, Isak, yes. Guehi, yes.
You know that, don't you?
Yeah. I'd be very disappointed if we didn't.
But they're not going to, because it'd be just signing for the sake of it.
Maybe so. Yes on Isak, yes on Guehi, no on both.
Guehi happens for the first time now tonight. I feel like Isak doesn't happen.
Okay. No bother.
Just I expect Newcastle to double down and just shoot themselves in the foot. That's the truth. I think, whether I think it's right or wrong, what I think's best for them, I think they're gonna double down and make fucking ages out of themselves, because apart from all of that, their inability to sign one striker when they need two has just
I
proven to
think
be.
I think they do. I think Isak does go because I think if they don't sell Isak, I don't think they can bring anyone else in, and that's what I think it is. Genuinely, I don't think they can bring anyone else in, and they'll be left with literally what they had on Saturday or Sunday, wherever day they play Saturday, and that's where I think it will end up. Right, that's been it. I've enjoyed that. Thanks a million to everyone for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. If you want to follow our Patreon, the link is in the description. You can check that out. A couple of shows already there this week, and there'll be a couple more as the week goes on. And if you're needing a VPN for the new season to watch all the football and all our streaming things and whatever country you want to be in, if it's not available in your country, NordVPN, check it out. It's there. It's in the description. So if all these have massive discounts on them.
I need that.
And do you?
I need that. Yeah,
there
I do,
you go,
yeah.
Phil.
I want that.
Get onto the link in the description, Phil. I'll tell you what I can do.
I was trying to watch
security, Phil. Security while you're walking away. You can put on 10 different devices, and you can be in any country you want in the world. You can watch any. You can watch. If you can't get Stars in Their Eyes Colombia in this country, you can head over to Colombia and get Stars in Their Eyes Colombia.
No,
I don't even know if Stars.
I wanted to watch.
I
wanted to watch ITV4 live.
Right.
That's what I wanted to watch.
Okay, well there you go. We might be able to.
Right, so because there was geo blocker on it for Ireland, so I said, now, do you know what I need? I need a VPN so I can watch that on my own and watch the cycle of it.
Well, I don't think
with the other three people who watch ITV.
I don't think a VPN entitles you to watch stuff on your own. I don't think that comes with the package. Other people may be in the room. I'm just saying, just let you know, right?
We never got to talk about the main story of the week. I sent you that your man doing the skiing without the skis down the hill. Right?
No, that's right.
And then the other fella essentially doing the skiing on his head without the snow. You see that one?
Is it skiing though?
He's on skis with a ski thing, and he has this back thing that holds him up doing a headstand, going down a hill with no snow on it. It's just grass and rubble, and eventually he nearly paralyzes himself when he eventually hits a rock. And you're like, you can see this from the very top. This is going to happen, but you wouldn't.
But he probably did get a personal best, so swings and roundabouts. You know, that's how it goes. Right, that has been it.
I'm taking that up.
Sean,
are you coming up TikTok with me? We go down the bit that's been on fire for the last week, right? And we can do skiing with no skis.
People might find that offensive, Phil.
Yeah,
know what I mean?
That's hardly.
You've called it skiing there. You've called it skiing there, and you haven't quantified
skiing down the ashes of a burned down forest. How did you know what I mean?
Man. Sorry.
You know what I mean? Board them all.
I'm sort of ploughing the land again for it.
Well, the Quilcha Ultras will be out now. They'll be given a big one. Anyway,
I love Quilcha. Great lads.
A great set of lads. Right, have to go. That's been Phil. That's been Shawnee. I've been Gav. That's been your Tuesday night show. Talk to you in a bit. Over and out.